Welcome to Thomistic Womanhood. In today's video, we are going to continue on the Beauty, Truth, and Goodness series, and we're talking about truth. And this is the subject of understanding men. To be attractive, you want to be the woman that understands men. And it's important because if you're trying to get into a relationship with one and you'd like to, hopefully one day marry one, you are going to be living with a man and dealing with a man, and they do not see things the way we do. They don't handle stress the way we do. They don't approach relationships the way we do. They don't approach life the way we do. And this is partly because, each gender has a different set of strengths and weaknesses. We women, we bear children, we're the ones that physically get pregnant and have babies, and that affects, the choices and the things we can do in life. Now, obviously, we've had a lot of advances in careers and all that, but women, we have a different experience of life, and that gives us some privileges, and then it also gives us some limitations. And for men, it's the same way. They often have greater physical strength. They are often more shrewd and strategic. They are better at amassing resources for themselves. Us women, we tend to be more giving and nurturing, and we'll think of the other person, and men aren't like that. They're more strategic. They're more good at I'm going to get mine. And so some of that shows that men, again, that is going to give them different privileges and advantages. And it's also going to give them different drawbacks and different weaknesses. So again, each gender, we're just different. We're complementary. We're different but equal. And so it's important to understand those differences, and you want to accept those differences about men. Now, I don't agree with the common understanding that men aren't good at relationships like women are, or, men aren't good at communicating, or, men aren't good at being sensitive, or what. There are certain times where women will often excuse an unloving partner or husband, and they will just say, that's how men are. Well, no, that's not how men are. A good man treats other people well and with respect, and he respects his woman, his wife, makes an effort. It may be difficult for him to maybe, remember to do things she likes or whatever, it may be certain things may come harder to him, but that doesn't mean he just throws up his hands and is like, I'm a man. I don't have, sometimes women can make that excuse. So when we understand men and we think of the differences and we accept the differences, I don't mean that you should accept bad behavior and excuse it and say, he's a man, no. Men can be considerate, men can be loving, men can be respectful. They may show it in a slightly different way, but they will, you will feel treated well. So if somebody is not treating you well, don't jump to the conclusion that, he's a man, it's too hard for him to treat me the way I'd like to be treated. Sometimes that can be a trap, so I'm not saying that. However, coming back to our point here, I'm going to talk about a few of the ways that men are different. So it's food for thought. One of the first things, men handle stress differently. So we women, when we are stressed out, we want to talk about it. We want to go to a friend and talk about it, somebody, because oftentimes what's really deep down at the heart of it is, I'm afraid nobody cares about me. I'm afraid I'm alone in the world, and so when you go talk to somebody else, that proves to you, I'm not alone. This person cares enough to listen, so I'm not alone, so it kind of fixes that underlying fear there. But again, I think they've done studies on the female brain, and there's neurons, neurotransmitters that go off when you're talking about a problem. And it actually literally helps you come to a conclusion or something. I know that probably sounds horribly sexist, but whatever. But yeah, women, we need to talk about it. We're not meant to just kind of go it alone all the time. We need other people, and it makes us feel better, to talk about our feelings and, sometimes cry it out and everything. However, men are different, very different. They want to do the opposite. When they're upset, they want to be left alone to figure it out themselves. Sometimes I would say for men, when they're upset, their underlying foundational fear is maybe I'm not good enough and I can't do it. Maybe I can't pull this off, or maybe I can't figure it out, or I'm going to fail. I'm failing. Men are really afraid of failure. Women, I would say, are more afraid of kind of like abandonment. I don't mean in like a romantic way, but I mean like we're afraid of losing our social connections. I feel like men are more afraid of failing. Well, I'm a failure, or I'm not useful. And so that's why when a man's upset, he wants to go off by himself. In the book Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, John Gray calls it going into his cave. Men want to go into their cave and think about it. Or if he can't, go off by himself and think it through, or maybe he did try to think it through, well, then they want to get their mind off it and they want to detach. And that's kind of how men kind of come to terms with things. They just kind of detach a bit, and, I guess their subconscious mind works out a solution, and then they feel better about it. But that's how men are. They don't want to talk about it. Usually they don't want to talk about it. They may talk about it with you just to give you like the actual informational details of what happened. But other than that, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to dig in and do like feelings archaeology and unearth how they felt in great nuance and detail. They don't want to do that, because for men, when they dig up feelings, it can be a very intense experience for them. I have heard it said that men are more emotional than women, that they don't feel often, but when they do, it's a very strong feeling, that men's feelings are more stronger than women's. And so when they have a feeling, now again, I'm not a guy, so I'm just kind of going off a hearsay, but this is from, I've mentioned him before, Bob Grant. He's a marriage and family therapist, he's like a psychologist, and he said that. He was like, when men feel, they feel very intensely. Women feel a lot, but they often don't feel intensely. Men don't feel a lot, but when they do, it's very intense. And so, because of that, they don't want to unleash all these, really deep feelings, because, that's what happens when they talk about it. And so for men, that is, it is not cathartic. It's actually the opposite. That makes them feel more out of control and makes them feel more doubtful of whether they can fix the problem, and more scared that maybe they're failing somehow, or, so it's different. It's different for men. And that's why, if you're dating a guy and he's upset, don't necessarily press him to give you a bunch of details. Just let him tell you whatever he feels comfortable telling you, because again, guys deal with stress differently. It doesn't always help for them to talk about it. Now, it is important to cover kind of like the informational details of what happened, and maybe a little bit here and there of like, well, yeah, I was really sad when that happened, or yeah, man, that really got to me, yeah, it hurt. So, men will talk about it somewhat, but don't just let men talk about however much they want to talk about. They will bring up as much feelings as they're comfortable with, and leave it at that. The next one, I kind of hinted this. Fears. Guys, they don't want to be a failure, they don't want to not be needed. It's been said that a man's worst fear is that no one needs him. A woman's worst fear is that no one cares about her. So there's a difference there. Men like to be useful. They like to be needed. And, a man, if they feel like nobody needs them, that's actually really demoralizing for a guy. This is why a lot of men nowadays, we're kind of having a crisis with young men, because they don't really feel like anyone needs them. We've basically had this cultural message going out that you're oppressing women, and you ruin everything you touch. And that to men is very damaging. It makes them feel like, oh, well, not only does nobody need me, not only am I not useful, I'm the opposite of useful. I'm destructive. That's actually a terrible that's a terrible message to send to a guy. So, and that's for guys. For us women, it's different. We're not as concerned about, maybe saving face, or making sure we're competent. I notice this in the workplace especially. Men are very concerned with how it looks, and us women kind of just do something. But I notice that sometimes guys, they want to make sure that, like, oh well, normally I would do this, but I broke my leg today, so and it's like they got to make sure, like, well, this is why I need help. I don't normally need help. Just saying. And that's different. That's different than women. With us women, it's like a feather in our cap if someone helps us. But with men, they don't want to be helped. They want to do it themselves. To them, sometimes it can feel almost like an insult if you're trying to help them with something that they could do themselves. Have you ever dealt with little boys? Have you ever babysat little boys, and maybe you were going to go outside and play and you were like going to help him zip up his jacket? Has a little boy ever told you, no, don't do it, I want to do it myself? Little boys do that. And again, that's that masculine desire to be self-sufficient. They don't want anybody to baby them. And that's a little different than women. If somebody, if you help a little girl zip up her jacket, have you ever seen them smile? You like zip up and she goes like, oh, happy, little girls are different. They like it when people help them. And so that's another difference between men and women. And that's a difference that can often cause trouble in relationships, because as women, if we love someone, we will often try to do things for them. Have you ever, gotten to know a guy, and like once you were dating a lot, you really started to fall in love with him, and so then you wanted to like do more for him. You wanted to do more things for him, and then did you ever notice that it kind of caused a little tension in the relationship? This is why, men, they want to be self-sufficient. They want to take care of themselves, and in a relationship, if he's a good guy, he wants to take care of you. So not only is it kind of annoying on a generic level, it's also a bit annoying in a relationship way, because it like almost kind of reverses what he's trying to do. It's like, no, I want to take care of you. I care about you. So I'm going to be useful to you. And so if you're doing things for him, that can kind of mess with his sense of, well, why am I here? Why am I in this relationship? If you can do all this stuff so much that you can do it for me too, like, why am I here? That's a difference between men and women that can create some tension. And women can often genuinely be, just completely flabbergasted, when a guy is angry that, they did something, maybe the woman did some elaborate, maybe she did some elaborate like birthday party or something, just something that really took a lot of work and was a lot of giving to him. And then, maybe he wasn't very impressed with it, or he didn't really like it. Sometimes it can be that. It can sometimes be that at work. Now, that's not to say that you don't ever do something nice for a guy, or you don't do something nice for your boyfriend. That's not true. It's fine to do things nice for them, but watch the reaction and make sure that you aren't doing it too often to the point where he maybe feels like smothered or like you're being mothering. So there's that.